Good morning. We started a new series last week. Jeff started it. The idea that we look through a particular lens at our tradition. The technical term is the historical Jesus. It basically says we're going to look at the human Jesus, not Jesus the Christ, that theology. Jesus from Nazareth, the human. And asking ourselves, what can we learn from that lens? What can we learn when we look through there? It's not saying there's other lenses that aren't important and aren't valuable. We're just not using those this time. When we look at Jesus of Nazareth, actually, I'm going to use Jeff's language. The not Chuck Norris Jesus. My personal favorite is the not Swedish Jesus. Can you throw up the image for me? Just give it a second here. There's an image called the image of Christ. It was done maybe 1950s. There it is. Swedish, super Swedish. Blonde hair, blue eyes. He's got a white, he's walking through the dusty, but he's got a white cloak that's never dirty. In my tradition, he had a blue sash. I'm not sure why he has a blue sash, but whatever, sashes are good. Fashion statement, maybe? And Jeff said, wait a second, if we look at Jesus through this human lens, suddenly instead of seeing Swedish Jesus and going, I can't keep up with that, we start to go, wait, what about the human components connect to me? And Jeff asked us, what does it look like spiritually to take good care of your physical self? Get enough rest. Get enough emotional regulation. What if that is our spiritual work? So instead of coming out of here and ripping off to 10 other things you got to do, no, there's a park right across the way. There's a sandy beach. I know it doesn't look like a beach. For those of you who are beach people, it's a complete false term, but technically sandy beach is right over there. Take a walk. We were there on Friday just looking at the sun reflecting off the water. Stunning. Spirituality of taking care of our physical self. I want to take it a step further today, but I want to do it by taking you all to the deep end. I was trying to think of how I was going to talk to you guys about this. I was going to hide it and sneak it into the back or call it something nicer. I'm just going to lay it to this is the spiritual gym. You guys can take this. The human Jesus was wrong about some things. Dead wrong. Not I mistook a 6 for a 9 kind of wrong. I'm talking I'm going to show you that what he predicted not only didn't happen, it went the exact opposite way. How are we feeling about the historical Jesus now? It's a little uncomfortable, isn't it? Whether we grew up in this tradition or whether we were taught. One of the things we taught, Jesus is not wrong. The reality is, if you look at the stories of Jesus and you take them really seriously, not just hey, we're going to look through this lens that says Jesus is never wrong, right? We could have used that lens, the lens of Jesus is never wrong. And so when he's wrong, we just go, oh, that's not what he meant. He meant this, because that would be right. Something shifts. Now, when we get to the end of this message, I'm going to show you how this impacts everything about your spirituality. But I need to take a little journey. I can't just drop by Jesus was wrong and then be walk away, right? Jeff talked about the historical Jesus, the man, the human who walked, who got dirty feet, was tired. If you read the earliest versions, stories of Jesus in this book called Mark, he's crusty. He's super impatient. He's his students are the dumbest people in the world. He's just constantly you idiots. At one point, he calls them a brood of vipers. I think that's Jesus for you dumb morons. He has moments where he's overwhelmed. He's sad. There's a very human part of Jesus. And again, he did that Jeff pointed it out to help us connect to a conception of Jesus that we can resonate with. I too am tired. I'm never cranky. Don't look at my wife right now. So let me take this a step further. Jesus was also Jewish. Jeff talked about that. People often think of Jesus as the first Christian. No. We have no records of that. In fact, in Jesus's, one of the authors quotes Jesus to say this. Can you throw it up for me? The first quote I had up. I didn't have it memorized, so I'm waiting for this one to come up so I can see it. My goal isn't to abolish our Jewish tradition. I plan to fulfill it. I will not change the smallest letter of the smallest sentence of the Jewish tradition until good wins out over evil. Good Jew. Like a real good Jew. Has anyone ever said, not change one iota? Have you ever heard that line? One iota? The literal translation, iota, is a way of drawing a certain letter that's very, very small. It's like the smallest of the small. We're not changing anything. It's all in play here. And then Jesus says this thing about this idea of a yoke. Can you throw up that quote for me? Come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Now, yoke is a word, a Jewish word, that one way you can read it is this. Jewish teachers, they call them rabbis, had something they called a yoke, which is kind of their body of teaching. This is like my way of being. This is my tradition. This is my way of reading the text. He says, I have a yoke. And so what we can see is, at least through some authors' lens, we not only see Jesus as not the first Christian, we see Jesus as a Jewish rabbi, using Jewish tradition to talk about his message. Okay, we're still doing good, right? There's nothing too controversial here, right? We're still okay. Because I'm humble and gentle at heart, you'll find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. Sometimes these yokes are a little heavy, but whatever. We'll keep talking. Can you throw up the next quote for me? Now, when you ask what is Jesus' yoke, every rabbi had a body of teaching. And again, I'm trying to get you to the point where we see how Jesus made a mistake, or at least everything I can see says he does. If you're a rabbi, you have a yoke. What is your yoke? What is your teaching? What is it that you're trying to do? Jesus, at one point, Jesus says this, when the uptight religious folks saw that Jesus had bested the religious elite, there's a story before where someone tries to kind of out Jesus, and he like ninjas them. It's beautiful. Anyways, we don't need to see it. They got together and tried to figure out how to get the power back by asking Jesus a classic rabbi question. They said, Rabbi, which commandment in the law is the greatest? Now, before you switch to the next screen, this is a common question. When you meet somebody new, you say, how are you doing, right? If you're rabbis in this era, you'd say, what's the greatest tradition or greatest commandment? It's just kind of the thing you say. And everyone had thought deeply about this, right? It's not just the 10 commandments, they're kind of hierarchying them. Here's the one that Jesus announced. Here's the thing. If Jesus is a Jewish rabbi, and if we think his life has value and his teachings has value, the question is, what are they? What is it that the Jesus tradition is calling you and me to? That's worth asking, isn't it? Can you put the next slide up for me? You shall devote yourself to God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. Before you change it, some of you might have heard, you might love the Lord your God. Has anyone ever heard that version? Love there in Greek doesn't mean I love you as in you're like my wife and I love you. Love you means I see what you're trying to do and I devote my life to that. That's why I changed the word. Next line for me. And in the same way, Jesus says, you shall devote yourself to take water to your neighbor. The technical term is love, but again, it's not love as in you love your neighbor, because let's be honest, we don't always love our neighbors. I have one neighbor, not a fan. Can I take water to him? Yeah, I can. If you disagree with my translation, please buy me a beer. We're going to get into the Greek. It'll be fun. You might not like it, but I will. The yoke of Jesus, then, has two pieces. devote yourself to God, and in the same way, devote yourself to taking water to the world. This is my yoke. Now here's the piece. What does it mean to devote yourself to God? We all think, well, of course, you're devoted. It's religion. That's what you're supposed to do. But what does that actually mean? When you start to wrestle with it, it's kind of tricky. For years, I looked at this idea of devoting yourself to God, loving God. What does that mean? I didn't even have a way through until I read some work by a guy named Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman is a historian of New Testament. And he said, there's a piece that you need to know for this to start to make sense. Now, this is his opinion. You can disagree with him. That's fine. About 200 years before Jesus, their conception of God seemed to have changed. If you read our oldest records, good things happen, it comes from God. That all makes sense, right? Bad things happen, it's because you pissed off God. God sends bad things. You got a ingrown toenail? Well, that's from God. And again, I'm not trying to joke here. This is their conceptualization of God. Now, most likely you don't carry that unless really bad things happen. Every once in a while I hear people say to me like, is God just pissed at my family? Because it's just been bad after bad after bad. Our earliest conceptions of God are good come from God, bad come from God. But here's the thing. About 200 years before Jesus, the people of Israel, or our Bible, got persecuted for being devout Jews. What did Jesus say? I'm not going to change one letter of the smallest sentence of the smallest word. They got persecuted for being perfect. They're looking around going, well, who screwed up? Why is God doing this to us? And they're all going, we're literally doing the perfect job of our tradition. And we're getting bad things. And so something seemed to have cracked in their consciousness. And this is what we see in Jesus. They started to say, wait a second, good comes from God. Yeah, we like that one. But this whole bad coming from God because we've sinned, it's not making sense anymore. And they created a split. Good comes from God. And they created a new character we hadn't seen before in our tradition. When you look back, you can find it. It's not there, but you can read it backwards. But they said bad comes from the devil. Any of my volunteers right now, have we ever blamed anything going wrong on the devil here at Friends Church? Anything goes wrong on the multimedia, it's the devil. The drum kit doesn't work, it's the devil. It's very much part of our tradition. It's this idea that says bad things come from the devil. So now we have God and good things, the devil and bad things. Yes, this is starting to make sense. Except does anyone look at your life and think that maybe the devil and evil seems to be in control or winning? You look around and you think, are good people getting ahead? Because I'm looking around going, there's a lot of people that I'm not super happy with who seem to have the money, the power, the control. I'm not super happy with how they're handling it either. Evil seems to be having control of the world right now. In Jesus' era, they saw the same thing. But they said, there's going to be a moment. They called it an apocalypse. We always think of apocalypse going bad, but think of apocalypse as a big shift from one thing to another thing, from bad to good. There will be a time when the whole world will shift. And all the good people, all the people who've been devout and have taken all these things, instead of being on the bottom and getting sick and dying and getting hurt, it's going to shift. You want to ride the shift. They is that there's going to be a moment when we beat death. Suddenly the Jesus story, resurrection is the beating of death. Could it be that Jesus was an apocalyptic Jewish rabbi who in his yoke had two things? One, take water to your neighbor. On the other side, there was an urgency. He even says it. Can you throw up the quote for me? I'm not joking here. Some of you will see the apocalypse in your lifetime. Good will win. All of you who've been good but are poor and are sick and are hurting, you will get the power. You will get the good life. You will be healthy. You will have children. Your crops are going to grow, and you're going to look at that selfish SOB over there, and his crops are going to suck, and his donkey's going to be lame. And you're like, ha ha, we told you to be good, buddy. You missed it on the flip. But here's the piece. In Jesus' mind, that flip is coming any minute. One other Jewish rabbi, his name's Paul, in the same tradition, says, don't even worry about getting married. Why would you? The apocalypse is happening any minute now. In their mind, it seems everything was going to change. And it started in their mind with Jesus beating death. Can you imagine that? You've been good your whole life, but you're at the bottom of the totem pole. And there's a promise that now you are going to be blessed. We think Jesus died around 35 CE, give or take. In the late 60s, a group of Jews started a rebellion in a place called Beth Horon. It's a valley. There was the soldiers. So Israel was occupied by Rome at this time. Talk about being, the Romans had all the power. They were horrible people. That's, again, this is our tradition, or how we read them. They're mean, they take power, they don't care about anyone else. It's all about them. Pax Romana. If we can beat them. So in 66 CE, as the soldiers, the garrison was walking down this valley, a bunch of Jewish rebels went flying down the hill and did the unthinkable. They destroyed all 5,000 soldiers. Can you imagine the feeling? We are promised that the apocalypse is going to come and all of our good is going to pay off. We just beat the bad guys. The beginning of the new world order is here. That fall they celebrated until spring the next year, when 60,000 Roman soldiers marched into Israel. They destroyed Jerusalem. The temple, where was the center of the Jewish tradition, the religious cultic tradition at the time, they destroyed it. Not only destroyed it, they destroyed it. They were as mean as they could be. They didn't just push it over. They took every sacred item and desecrated it. And then they took every brick and they unstacked it. Any stone of a wall. They didn't even leave little stub walls. They literally unstacked it to be like, there will be nothing left of you. Jesus said, in your lifetime, good will win over evil. Not only did good not win, but evil kicked their butts. Why do I tell you this? I tell you this because something shifted in me a couple months ago. there's an urgency to our faith, often in our traditions. You need to do this now. You have to give up everything now. I was talking to my wife. We grew up in a tradition where they would say things like, what if you get hit by a car on the way home? There's an urgency. In the same way, I think it's coming from that lens of at any moment the apocalypse is going to happen and you got to be on the right side, because when this sucker flips, you got to ride it to the top. If you're on the other side, you will be sick. Life will not be good. Tradition has an urgency too. But here's the question I want you to sit with for just a moment. What if that urgency is cultural? It's not part of Jesus' yoke. What if this sense of you have to give everything right now because at any moment this thing's going to go? What if that is cultural? All the rabbis of the time seemed to be apocalyptic. At any time this thing's going to flip. There's many things in the Bible we say is cultural. There's a verse that says, greet each other with a holy kiss. None of y'all kissed me this morning. Why? Because it's cultural. We don't do that. You could translate it, greet each other with a jaunty wave. That would be a good one for me. I'm pretty introverted, jaunty wave from afar even. There's many things in the Bible that are cultural. And so we say, oh, those are cultural. What if the urgency is also cultural? What then do we do with Jesus' yoke? You guys have known, about 4 years ago, our shower started to leak in our bathroom. We have one bathroom. Started to leak. It's this kind of crappy fiberglass shower. One thing led to another. Does anyone know the word scope creep, from work? Scope creep took over our lives for a while there. We went from, we need to fix the thing to replace it, to let's just gut half the condo and start from scratch. I told my wife, it'll probably take me about 3 months. 4 years later. We say my wife is long-suffering. That is true, very true. Finally finished. But there was a time about a year ago. I'd been living for 3 years in a sense of urgency. We have one bathroom. If I take the shower apart, there's no shower. If the toilet is not in place, there is no toilet. There's an urgency. 3 years ago, I finally just felt I was burnt out. I couldn't do it anymore. I had no motivation left. Actually, let's be honest. At 3 years is when I finally couldn't do it anymore. I had no motivation for about 2.5 years. Urgency does not create long-term projects well. I was sitting in my bathroom thinking, how do I get through this? I was thinking, who in my life knows how to work at a pace that they never need to stop? They work at a pace, they don't need a day off because they're exhausted or burned out. They can go and go and go. And I was thinking of this guy. We dirt bike with him. He is literally the slowest guy to get ready every time. Drives me frickin' bananas. He's a farmer. He works 6 months of the year, actually probably closer to 10 months of the year. Takes 2 months off. When I say work, 6 months of his year, he works a lot. Now, I don't mean like 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday. What I mean is he works every day for 6 months. Every day. 12, sometimes more hours a day. How do you stay motivated for that long? You set a pace that you can sustain. He takes lunch breaks. He's not running around like a chicken with his head cut off like I am half the time. He has a ritual in his day. He gets in his truck. He sets it up like he's going to be there for 6 months. Everything is about, how do I do this for a lifetime? And I went, wait a second. What if, I call it farm pace. I can feel it when I'm walking through the house. There's sometimes I'm all tense. I'm like, ugh, and I'm like, wait, Clausen, farm pace. Huh. Oh yeah, I can walk this pace. I can do this long term. Suddenly, I had motivation again to renovate. Happy to say my part is now finished. I'm already looking for the next renovation. If we take the urgency of Jesus' message and we say, what if this is cultural? And now we look at our spirituality through the lens of farm pace. Not, I'm having a spiritual moment and so I'm going to forget everything and go to a monastery for 6 months straight and that kind of thing. Anyone have a friend who starts at the gym and they're like, I'm going to go 6 days a week, it'll be perfect, I'll be able to sustain this forever, and you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to give you 3 weeks. At 2.5, they get injured and they call you and they're like, I got injured. You're like, yeah, I guessed that. What does farm pace look like? You start going to the gym 1 day a week, then 2. Then you realize, with the rest of my life and all that I have going on with my kids and everything like that, 2 is probably good. I can handle that. I can maintain that long term. Let's go back to Jesus' yoke. Loving God before was trying to get on the right side of the flip. When the apocalypse happens, make sure you're going to get blessed. But if that's cultural, I'm going to put that aside for a second. Now the yoke is this. How do you take water to your world? Not in a one-shot deal where you blow the wad and everything's, it's all you can do and you're exhausted. You need 6 months, 10 years off. What does it look like at farm pace? During my renos, I used to donate blood, plasma. Jeff does platelets, I did plasma. I stopped. I didn't have enough energy. I just couldn't figure out the schedule. It was just, my one day off, I'm dirt biking, the other day off, I'm renovating all day. I wasn't at farm pace because I didn't have balance. When I talk to parents right now, how many of you are going I'm basically a human taxi at this point. My kid's there, and I got this there, and they, if we magically can somehow get them food on the way from this thing to this thing, then we can pull this thing off. Is that farm pace? No, it's going, I am burning the candle on both ends, and I'm hoping that something shifts before it blows up. Taking water, trying not to die. I'm trying to have 5 minutes to myself. When the message of Jesus' yoke is urgency, none of this long-term stuff matters. It's about doing it now. Burning out. Self. It's all about being selfless because at any moment, when you shift his message to say, what does it look like to do this long-term, farm pace? Suddenly I change things. I do need to donate blood. I love their slogan, it's in you to give. Really, really is. How do I build my life so that that's a part of it? How do I build my life so this is a part of it? The spiritual gym. You notice what we're doing is we're not focused here so much on getting your beliefs right. What we're focused on is helping you be a healthy human being so that devotion to God and taking water are easy things. You don't have parts talking to you saying, take care of you. You can't do that. Freaking out. What about this over here? Anyone? With the last series we did, recognizing the voices of protector parts. Those things that pull us away from our whole and full spirituality. Somebody said to me the other day, the town hall meeting, they brought all their parts together. They said, I get to set the timeline. Anybody who's super urgent, I'll listen to you, but I set the timeline. Because parts often say, I want you to fix this now. I want control now. How many of us, if there's somebody who needed some help in our life, someone broken down the side of the road, someone who moved, someone who needed a phone call, would have enough time to do it? If Jesus' yoke is taking water, not the urgency again, but in this long-term place, what about our emotional lives? I can feel when I'm dysregulated, man. Someone needs a kind word. My wife needs to be skillful. What does it look like to get that part of our lives healthy so we have capacity anywhere? Earliest book about Jesus, we call them Gospels. We think it's Mark. We think it happened. Many scholars think it happened before the 60,000 Romans came and took down the temple. The latest one is a book called John. John's message doesn't have a sense of urgency. John's actually very Swedish. His Jesus seems to flow through the world kind of like this. But he shifts the message. He says, my yoke, when you talk about Jesus' yoke, yeah, taking water, but as a way to change the world. The apocalypse isn't the divine shifting the whole world order. No. It's every one of us, every day, consistently taking water, working on ourselves so we can be better human beings, so we can bless the world. He uses the word divine. When we love, God is. And suddenly we see Jesus' yoke connecting. When we are healthy, whole, water-carrying humans, we are the divine. We create the apocalypse. It doesn't happen in one person's lifetime. It happens over the entire span of humanity. The one thing my farm friend can't have happen is this. He cannot burn out. If he stays healthy, his farm will work. Some years he'll make money. Most years he won't. But if he ever bows out, it's all over. How does our spirituality look like? Played through the long game. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. It's a lifestyle. It's not something we just get excited about for a minute and then get flared out and back off. No. How do we do it at farm pace so we can do it for the rest of our lives? If you don't want to do this, all you have to say is, Vince, you're wrong about Jesus being an apocalyptic Jewish rabbi. And then you can just ignore everything I just said. But please buy me a beer because I want to argue it with you. If you're seeing what I'm seeing, the question now is, what is the thing that's holding me back from being a long-term water carrier? Is it your schedule? Your time? Those things can be fixed. I know there's parts that are saying, but Vince, you don't understand. I get it. Thank you, parts. Appreciate your work. But we can make changes. So your finances. I can't be generous. Really? Okay. What if we made some changes? Again, the parts will tell us, you can't do that. I understand. Thank you. Appreciate it. Is it emotional regulation? Do we need to do this work? Do we need to see a counselor? Do we need to create a regular program in our lives that helps us work to be the healthiest human beings so that our love of the world, our taking water, is the divine? Here's what I want to leave you with. Pick one thing that's getting in the way for you and start to work on it this week. Make subtle shifts. Instead of buying the $7 sweet Starbucks coffee, buy the $3 one. Give $4 away. See how it feels. Take some time. Go for a walk. Calm your nervous system so you can spread that calm to the world around you. Go back, listen to the series on parts. Start to work on those parts of you so that Jesus says, my yoke is easy. I don't know if easy is the right word, but profound is absolutely the right word, I think. May we be water carriers, people who love God, love each other, and may this be a lifetime for us. That's my take on Jewish rabbi. Amen? Next week, bear with me, Jesus and politics. I will be wearing bulletproof armor, and you guys can all come and heckle. Have a great week, everyone.